Welcome to the Breakaway podcast, recorded on the campus of Texas A&M. For more information, check out our website at breakawayministries.org. We hope you enjoy the message.
Well, I want to start off tonight by simply showing you what you and your roommates are going to spend the rest of the night doing. Okay, there's a couple of games that I want to just introduce to you that are going to absolutely drive you and your roommates crazy, especially if you're kind of the competitive type. And these are two games that I used to play with high school students when I was a student ministry pastor. If anyone here is kind of an aspiring youth pastor, part of being a good youth pastor is knowing how to annoy high school students in a very, very deep way. And so here's what I would do with high school students, and I'll just kind of show you. I would pull out a bill. Tonight I have a $20 bill. And what I would do is I would put the $20 bill on the ground, and I would just say, you know what, here's the deal. If you can grab your toes and jump over the $20 bill, you can keep it. And what are you thinking right now? You're like, that's easy. Like, let me on the stage because I could do that. But I promise you, if you were to get up here and do that, you would fail miserably. I mean, there's a few freaks in here who would just kind of get it done. But the rest of you scrubs would fail miserably because it seems so logical and so easy. You just grab your toes and then you jump. And it doesn't work. It's not meant to happen. Okay, so that's the first game. The second game is this. I would tell a high school student to take their hands and put it like this. Take one hand, put it like this. And I would tell them this, I'm going to put the $20 bill right in between your fingers like this. And you have one chance. I'm going to let the $20 bill go, and if you catch it, you can keep it, okay? So I just drop it, and the goal was that if they caught it, they could keep it, but they only had one chance to do that. And the reason that this game is going to drive you crazy tonight is because every single one of you is sitting there thinking, I can do it. I want to try it right now because you think that you're some exception to the game. Like your brain will connect with your hand in a way that no one else's will, and you are the one that will be able to do it. And I just want you to know, you will fail. And that, me saying that to you right now is driving you crazy because you're like, but what if I don't? What if I'm able to grab it? Here's what I want you to kind of get intimately acquainted with tonight. I want you to know that frustrating feeling that will inevitably come when you tell yourself, I will be able to grab the $20 bill. Because when you do that, something in you develops this confidence in this expectation that you're going to become $20 richer. And so when the bill drops and you go to grab it and you grab for it thinking that you're going to grab something, and then when you open your hand, you realize you've grabbed nothing. That frustratingly empty feeling is what I need you to lock in with tonight. That frustratingly empty feeling is actually the topic of an entire book in the Bible. A guy named King Solomon wrote a book that focuses specifically on this frustratingly empty feeling where you go to grasp for something, and then when you open your hand, you realize that it is frustratingly empty. And instead of getting something, you get nothing. King Solomon wrote a book called Ecclesiastes. Here's what you need to know about Solomon. Solomon was a guy who was relentlessly in pursuit of getting his hands around everything that this life has to offer. He had a burning zeal within him to experience satisfaction and fulfillment in this life. And as he got toward the end of his life and he looked back on all he had learned and all he had experienced, he looked at what he had. And instead of having something, he felt that he had nothing. And he realized that life in this world can be frustratingly empty. So the book of Ecclesiastes exists so that you and I might have a different kind of experience. The book of Ecclesiastes, I don't know how much interaction you've had with the book. I would imagine that many of you have never opened the book of Ecclesiastes before in your life, but I would say that I believe that the book of Ecclesiastes is probably the most relevant book to college students in the entire Bible. Because every single person in here is after the same thing. Every single one of us is searching for satisfaction and fulfillment. This isn't a spiritual thing. I'm just stating the obvious. Every single person in here is relentlessly pursuing satisfaction and fulfillment. That's what you want. Nobody stepped into this semester hoping for mediocrity, right? Nobody showed up saying, you know what, I hope I have a mediocre semester with mediocre friends. I hope I have a mediocre social experience, and I really, really hope when I show up to my classes tomorrow that they're mediocre classes in which I make mediocre grades so I can have a mediocre GPA and graduate and get a mediocre job and find a mediocre spouse with whom I can buy a mediocre house and raise mediocre kids. Nobody here hopes for mediocrity. Every single person here is passionate about experiencing satisfaction and fulfillment. That's what we all desire. That's why the book of Ecclesiastes is so relevant to your life and to mine. And what we're going to see in the book of Ecclesiastes is that there's when you boil it all down, there's really only two places that you can look for fulfillment and satisfaction. And what we're going to find is that only one of those places will actually get us to where we want to be. And the other place will leave us feeling frustratingly empty. So you better be very careful where you search for satisfaction and fulfillment this semester. If you have a Bible, I want you to turn with me tonight to the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. And let me just read you the first 11 verses. Here's what it says. It says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things yet to be among those who come after. So we start off in verse 1, and it tells us who the author is. It says that this is the son of David, king in Jerusalem. That sounds a lot like Solomon. Some people really debate this and think that Solomon didn't write it. I personally believe that Solomon did write the book of Ecclesiastes. And this is just my opinion, and there's other godly men who would agree with this, but in my personal opinion, I think that Solomon wrote the book of Song of Solomon or Song of Songs. I think he wrote that early on in his life. I think he wrote the book of Proverbs throughout the course of his life. And then I think he wrote the book of Ecclesiastes when he became an old, wrinkly man, okay? What you need to know about Solomon is that he was king, which means that there was a point in time where he was the most powerful man in the world. The Bible would tell us that next to Jesus, Solomon was the wisest man in the world. There was a time where he was the wealthiest man in the world. And I would argue that he had the most sex of any man in the world with 700 wives and 300 concubines. This man gets towards the end of his life and looks back on all he's learned and all he has experienced, and here is his conclusion. It's found in verse 2. He says, "Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity." Okay, so look right at me, because what I need to do right now is I need to clue you in on one word and one phrase that you are going to see repeatedly in the book of Ecclesiastes. The most popular word in the book is the Hebrew word hevel. It's translated in your Bible as either vanity or meaningless. But that word hevel, concretely speaking, it refers to a mist or a vapor or a breath. Metaphorically speaking, it's referring to something fleeting or elusive. So think about the breath that comes out of your mouth that you can see on a cold day. It's a breath, but it's elusive. So think about the frustration you would feel if you tried to capture your breath and bottle it. Or imagine the frustration you would feel if you tried to hug a cloud. In our case tonight, we're talking about the $20 bill sitting between your fingers. It's there 1 second and gone the next. It's elusive. Imagine try and enter into that frustration that you would feel when you grasp for something and in the end get nothing. It feels frustratingly empty. That's what hevel is getting at. It's getting at that feeling of being frustratingly empty. So that's the one word that you're going to see throughout the book. The one phrase that you're going to see is the phrase under the sun. And this is extremely important. Please don't miss this. This phrase, you're going to see it about 29 times. You're going to see the word hevel about 38 times. And this phrase, under the sun, is kind of creating the boundaries of Solomon's perspective. As I said at the beginning, there's really only two places that you can look for satisfaction and fulfillment. The first place you can look is under the sun. Now just think about that word picture. What is under the sun referring to? Well, it's referring to human existence within the confines of the material world. So it's first referring to your one dash. That one dash between your birth date and your end date. That one short dash that's 60, 70, 80 years tops. It's referring to that, but then it's also referring to the material universe. And this is very key. That phrase, under the sun, that perspective, it removes God from the equation. And it deals with that which we can see right here in our material universe. Now watch how hevel, or vanity, meaningless, and under the sun come into play, starting in verse 2. Solomon says, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. He says vanity of vanities, which is it's a superlative expression. It's like saying Jesus is the Lord of Lords or King of Kings. What Solomon is saying, if you want to know what is hands down, by far, without question, the most frustratingly empty thing in this world, here it is. It's everything. Everything in this world is frustratingly empty. Everything in this world has the same story. You go to different things thinking that they're going to provide you with some type of satisfaction or fulfillment. You look for love, peace, satisfaction, pleasure, contentment. And when you go to grasp for the $20 bill, which is life, you think you get it, you get to the end, you open your hand, and it is frustratingly empty. That's what prompts Solomon to really give us his thesis statement for the whole book in the form of a question in verse 3. What does he say? He says, "What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils?" Here's our phrase, "under the sun." He says, what does man gain? Another translation translates that word gain as profit. So think in financial terms. What Solomon's saying, he's saying, is it really possible to go through life, get to the end, and come out ahead? And his question here implies a negative response. So he's saying, is it really possible to go through life, and when you get to the end and you kind of balance your account and you see everything you've given the world and everything the world has taken from you, everything you've gotten, everything that's been taken, is it really possible to come out in the black? According to the most powerful, the most wealthy, the most pleasure-hungry, most wise person who lived several years ago, the answer is no. Now, I need to warn you, okay? This passage in this talk has the potential to be very depressing. Like, if we aren't careful, many of you guys are going to be walking around campus tomorrow in your pajamas, unshowered, eating a big bag of powdered sugar donuts, just like, it's all vanity. You'd just be sitting in class like, meaningless. Some of y'all do that already. But let me frame it for you this way, okay? Let me frame it for you this way. This past week, I came across something online that was entitled Celebrities Without Makeup or Photoshop. And so I started looking at it, and it's very interesting. And let me just say out front that the men and the women that I saw were very attractive people, even without Photoshop or makeup. But the one thing I walked away with was that perception was not reality. Because even these people who had been elevated as the ideal for beauty and sex appeal had wrinkles and splotches and acne and signs of aging. Perception was not reality. You know what Ecclesiastes is? Ecclesiastes is life under the sun with no makeup and no Photoshop. And some of us desperately need to hear this book. This book is going to tell us some hard truths, and you might not want to hear it, but you desperately need to hear it, because I would imagine that many of us, if not most of us, are looking under the sun for satisfaction and fulfillment because our perception is that we can have some type of profit under the sun. But if perception isn't reality, don't you want to know that? If perception isn't reality, and you look for satisfaction and fulfillment under the sun, and in the end you end up frustratingly empty, don't you want to know about that now while you still have a bunch of your life still left to live? What Solomon is doing is he is unpacking life under the sun for us, one of the two places that we can look for life. This perspective where God is removed from the equation and you deal with life within the confines of this material world. And he's exposing it to us. No makeup, no Photoshop. So just hear me when I say this. This passage isn't meant to depress you. It's meant to liberate you. It's meant to direct you to the one place that can truly give you what you want. But here's what you need to realize. Our default mode, the place that we will naturally look for satisfaction and fulfillment, is under the sun. That's our default mode. And until you see life under the sun for what it truly is, you will never bother to look to the one true place that can give you what you truly want. So let me tell you what Solomon is going to do right here in these 11 verses that we're looking at. He is exposing life under the sun, and he's going to show us 3 realities about life under the sun. Here's the first one. The first one is that under the sun, your life isn't building, it's cycling. The second reality he's going to show us is this. Under the sun, innovation is anticlimactic. And the third thing he's going to show us is this. Under the sun, we are easily forgotten. So look with me. Let me unpack the first point. Under the sun, our lives aren't building, they're cycling. Look at what he says in verses 5 through 8 again. He says, the sun rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness, and man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Do you see the point he's making? Here's the point he's making. Creation isn't building, creation is cycling. So he looks at the sun. He says the sun rises, the sun sets, and then it hastens back to the place where it started. That word hasten in the Hebrew, it means to pant. Like think about a dog panting from exhaustion. It's saying the sun is worn out because it's just cycling. It's just constantly doing the same exhausting, monotonous thing every single day. And then he moves on to the wind. He says the wind goes to the south and to the north, and around it goes. It's just on a constant circuit. And then he goes to the water. It rains, the streams run out to the sea. The sea's not full. Evaporation happens. It rains again. The streams run to the sea. Evaporation happens, and on it goes. His point is that creation isn't building to some moment of fulfillment. Creation is just stuck in this monotonous, exhausting cycle. And now his argument is going to move from general to personal, because I don't know if you saw it, it was very subtle. After he unpacked the sun and the wind and the water, he said, all things are full of weariness. And then he began to talk about the eye and the ear, and here was his point. He said, think about your eyes. Isn't it weird that your eyes never come to a point where they say, I've seen it all. The hard drive is full. Pardon me, the cloud is full. I don't need to see anything else. You know what? The ears, isn't it weird that your ears are never like, I'm tapped out. I can't take any more noise, no more laughter, no more music. I've heard it all. I'm maxed out. I'm fulfilled. No, what's his point? His point is that creation isn't building, it's cycling, and you are a part of creation. Your life isn't building towards fulfillment. Under the sun, your life is just cycling. Let me just show you how this plays out in our lives. I want you to kind of fill in the blank for your own life, okay? Follow me on this. Here it is. Just fill in the blank. If I can just fill in the blank, then I will be satisfied in life. What is that for you? If I can just what? Then I will be satisfied. Okay? Whatever you put in that blank is kind of the top of the ladder for you. If you can just climb and build to that, then you believe that your life will be satisfied. You will be fulfilled. But what Solomon is trying to help you realize is that at the top of that ladder is the bottom of another ladder. That's what he's trying to show you. The top of that ladder is actually the bottom of another ladder. So I would imagine for some of you, here's how you filled in the blank. If I can just land a job, then I will be satisfied. For others, here, this was it. If I can just get married, then I will be satisfied. Solomon's message to you is, you believe that's the top of your ladder, but what you need to realize is that the top of that ladder is the bottom of another ladder. Just think about all of the ladders that are still behind. If I can just get a job, I will be satisfied. Or if I can just get married, I'll be satisfied. Behind that ladder, or at the top of that ladder, is so many other ladders. Like, for example, if I could just get a promotion, if I could just get a raise, if we could just buy a house, if we could just get pregnant, if I could just get into grad school, if I could just get my company to pay for grad school, if we could get pregnant again, if we could just have well-behaved kids, if I could just get a better job, if I could just retire early. At the top of one ladder is the bottom of another ladder. And at some point, climbing ladders under the sun, you die. I think best way I can illustrate this is by just sharing a quote from Tom Brady. In June 2005, Tom Brady, who is now the winningest quarterback in NFL history. Listen to this. He was interviewed on 60 Minutes, which is on CBS. I tell you that because 60 Minutes isn't on YouTube, so you need to know. It's on CBS. That's on something called cable. Here's what he said. He said, "Why do I have 3 Super Bowl rings and still think there's something greater out there for me? I mean, maybe I have a lot of maybe a lot of people would say, hey man, this is what is. I reached my goal, my dream, my life. Me, I think God, it's got to be more than this. I mean, this can't be what it's all cracked up to be. I mean, I've done it. I'm 27, and what else is there for me?" So the guy interviewing Tom Brady said, "Well, what's the answer?" And what did Tom Brady say? He said, "I wish I knew. I wish I knew." You know what Tom Brady was realizing? He was realizing that at the top of his ladder was the bottom of another ladder. He just didn't know what ladder it was. Because under the sun, your life isn't building towards fulfillment. It's just cycling. You're stuck in this endless, monotonous, exhausting cycle. First reality Solomon wants you to know is under the sun, your life isn't building, it's cycling. The second key reality that Solomon wants you to see is this: under the sun, innovation is anticlimactic. Look at what he says in verses 9 and 10. Listen to this. He says, "What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages before us." Now, let's just be clear on this, okay? Is Solomon saying that innovation and advancement are dead? No, that would be ridiculous. Because new things are coming out all the time. What is he saying? What he's saying is that even in the realm of innovation and advancement, we are in a rut. Because something comes out and we think it's going to change our lives, and then it ends up buried under a pile of Chick-fil-A bags in our back seat. He's saying nothing comes out that provides lasting satisfaction. And if anyone gets this, it's going to be your generation. The perfect example of this is the iPhone. Let's just, by show of hands, okay? Who here is still rocking the iPhone 3S by choice? Okay. How about the iPhone 4 by choice? Okay. And I understand that some of y'all are Samsung or whatever, so just bear with. Okay, that's great, cool, way to go. Okay, but just follow me on this. Okay, you've got to correlate it to whatever the equivalent of the iPhone 4 is, but if you had the iPhone 4, I just want you to think back to when you got it. Do you remember that moment? I mean, I would imagine you held it in your hand and you were like, my precious, and you held it, and some of you guys hesitated to peel off that plastic. You know, you wanted to keep it on, just that you're like, man, it works. It still reads my touch through the plastic, and then you just felt dirty when you peeled it off, but it just was time, and then you went out and you put a case on it quickly because you wanted to keep it in top condition. Where is that iPhone 4 now? Who knows? All we know is that at some point, the thing you couldn't live without became something that you couldn't live with. And so you anxiously anticipated the day that you qualified for an upgrade, and you got it. Because innovation is anticlimactic. Think about social media. You guys will absolutely get this. Think back to how many of you hounded your parents to allow you to open up a Facebook account. Remember how glorious that day was when you got to open your Facebook account. And now Facebook is dumb, even though you're still secretly on it. But it's dumb. And then Twitter came along, and Twitter was the new thing, and now Twitter is 2000 and late. And so now it's about Instagram or Snapchat. See, isn't that interesting? The thing that right now is epic or life-changing, 1 or 2 years from now will be dumb. Innovation is anticlimactic. Innovation doesn't satisfy or fulfill. Interestingly, I think that innovation actually breeds dissatisfaction. Because now that we have our smartphones, the majority of us have them, and we have social media, it's like pouring lighter fluid upon the fire of comparison. And many of us spend hours every day comparing our lives to a mosaic of everyone else's best moments. And it fuels dissatisfaction in us. Isn't that interesting? The things we couldn't live without become the things that we can't live with. And so we just move from one thing to another, and nothing truly satisfies. What's the point? Stuff, innovation, development can't satisfy. In actuality, the more you have, the more you want. The third reality Solomon wants you to see is this. Under the sun, you are easily forgotten. Let me read you verse 4 again. It says this. It says, a generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. And then verse 11, I'm going to read it from the NIV. It says this, no one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. Under the sun, you are easily forgotten. Let's just play a game real quick. Okay, let's just kind of trivia. It's the first day of school. Kind of scraping off the rust in your mind. So let's just start out easy, okay? Who was president before Barack Obama? George W. Bush, okay? Who was president before George W. Bush? Bill Clinton, okay? Before Bill Clinton, who was president? George H.W. Bush. Before George H.W. Bush, who was president? Ronald Reagan. Who was president before Ronald Reagan? Jimmy Carter. Who was president before Jimmy Carter? Gerald Ford. Who was president before Gerald Ford? Richard Nixon. Okay. Anyone drop off along the way there? Several people. Okay, some of you guys hung in there strong. Well done. For many of you who dropped off right around Ronald Reagan, like the turning point for you was either Jimmy Carter or Gerald Ford, here's what you need to realize. Those people held the most important position in our country less than 50 years ago. They were in the newspaper and on the TV every single day. And now they are completely off our radar. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you had a meaningful conversation about Gerald Ford or Jimmy Carter? And it's less than 50 years ago. See, you know what Solomon is trying to show us? He's trying to show us this. Under the sun, even those who become somebodies become nobodies in a moment in time. Think about a beach. Like if you've ever been to the beach on vacation, you move onto that beach and you have all your stuff and you spend your week there making some of your greatest memories, and you spend a bunch of time building a sandcastle, and then after your time is done, the ocean tide comes and washes it all away, and someone else moves onto that same plot of sand and starts building their memories, and no one even remembers that you were there. This is the way that life under the sun works. You spend your life building your castle in this world. And then the minute that you're gone, the ocean tide of this world comes and washes it all away. No one remembers that you were there, and someone moves onto the same plot of ground and starts building their own castle. This is what Solomon is trying to show you, that under the sun you are easily forgotten. Okay, so what's the point of all of this? Because remember, I told you that this passage and this message isn't meant to depress you, it's meant to liberate you. It's not meant to depress you, it's meant to direct you. See, until you see life under the sun for what it truly is, which is that it's frustratingly empty, you will never bother to look to the one place that can truly bring fulfillment. Solomon unpacks life under the sun because he's trying to redirect your gaze. He exposes life under the sun for what it truly is, so that you will spend the rest of this semester, and honestly the rest of your life, looking for satisfaction and fulfillment, not under the sun, but beyond the sun, in Jesus Christ. Listen to Jesus' words to us right here on the first day of school. In John 10:10, Jesus says this: "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." Do you see what Jesus is saying? He is saying, I have come from beyond the sun to rescue people under the sun, those who realize that life cannot be found within the confines of this material world. I have come from beyond the sun to rescue you from life under the sun. Jesus Christ came and lived the life that you couldn't. He died the death that you deserved to die. He was raised to new life so that you too could experience a new life, a liberated life with him. Jesus Christ is our answer for a frustratingly empty life under the sun. Let me just show you how Jesus is the answer for everything that Solomon is showing us in Ecclesiastes chapter 1. According to Solomon, under the sun, your life isn't building, it's just cycling. At the top of one ladder is the bottom of another ladder. But if you know Jesus Christ, if you have come to a point where you realize that Jesus Christ came to deal with all of that which stood in between you and God, he came to bring you back to God, then with Jesus, your life is now building towards a glorious fulfillment, because a day is coming where you will spend all of eternity experiencing the soul-satisfying joy of being with Jesus Christ face to face. That's what's in store for you. That's where your life is building to. Psalm 16:11 puts it this way. I want you to see this. Go ahead and put it on the screen. Psalm 16:11, it says this: "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." That's where your life is headed. That's where you're building to. You are building towards an eternity where there are pleasures forevermore, where your life will just continue building with pleasure for forever. What's at the right hand of the Father? That's Jesus. Jesus ascended into heaven and he was seated at the right hand of the Father. So at your right hand are pleasures forevermore. There are pleasures forevermore with Jesus Christ. That's where your life is headed. But here's the great news. That sounds like I'm just talking about the future. But when you know Jesus Christ, it brings meaning to everything now. And so think about it. When you get married and you experience intimacy in your marriage, you know what that marriage is doing? It's just building anticipation of the intimacy you will experience with Jesus Christ one day when you see him face to face. And when you accomplish something and you get a raise or a promotion in your job, and you receive the applause of man, and that feels good, and that energizes you and brings some satisfaction into your life, you know what that's doing? It's building anticipation of the day when Jesus Christ will look you in the eyes and say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Or when you have your first child, and you see that child, and he or she has only been in this world for 30 seconds, and yet your heart is full. It is maxed out with delight and love and pleasure in that child. That is building anticipation of the day where you will spend all of eternity with your perfect Father, who pours out his delight and his pleasure and his love for you in person. Now we experience it by faith, but a day is coming where it will be by sight. With Jesus Christ, your life isn't just cycling, it is building. According to Solomon, innovation is anticlimactic. There's nothing new under the sun, but Jesus is in the business of making things truly new. Look at what 2 Corinthians 5:17 says. It says this: "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come." Jesus Christ is in the business of making things new. If you know Jesus Christ in a personal way, then you are forever new. Now, we quote this verse a lot, and you might hear it a lot, and right here on the first day of school, it has no meaning in your life because you don't look new and you don't feel new. Let me just tell you the reality of the newness Jesus has brought into your life. If you know Jesus, you have a new identity. You were an enemy of God, now you're a child of God. You aren't defined by what you do, you're defined by what Jesus Christ has done for you. He has rescued you and brought you into the family of God. You have a new relationship with your past failures. Your past failures are no longer anchors of guilt, shame, and regret that you have to tow around. No, your failures are now trophies of God's grace, and you don't have a story to hide, you have a story to tell. Because of Jesus, you have a new position in regard to fighting sin. You're no longer fighting for victory, you're fighting from victory. You have a new power in your life. The same power that raised Christ from the dead is now available to you. And you have a new presence in your life. The God of the universe comes and takes up residence inside of you. That's why Paul says, "I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me." Jesus Christ is in the business of newness. Last, according to Solomon, under the sun, you're very forgettable. You're easily forgotten. There will be no remembrance of you. Your life ultimately doesn't matter. It's insignificant, but with Jesus, listen to this. This is great news. Your name is forever written in the book of life. And what Ephesians chapter 1 tells us is that God considers us his glorious inheritance. That when Jesus came down and he died on the cross for our sins and he rose from the dead, when we put our faith and trust in him for salvation, Jesus Christ does such a beautiful work in us. He gives us his righteousness and he transforms us inside so completely, even if you can't see it, even if you don't feel it. He does such a beautiful work in us that the God of the universe, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords says, I want you. I don't need you, but I want you for all of eternity. I'll close by telling you this. You can go home tonight and you can play the $20 bill drop game, and I encourage you to do it. You can go home and you can play it, and let me tell you how it's going to go, okay? It's going to drop the first time and you're going to miss it. And so you know what you're going to do? You're going to go, wait. Okay, okay. Okay, one more time, okay? And it'll drop through and you'll miss it and be like, whoa, okay. One more time. Okay, I'm ready this time. And you're going to keep doing it. And there might come a time where you actually catch it. Because you're anticipating the bill so much that your fingers move at the exact time it's dropped and you catch it. But in real life, there's only one drop. There are no redos with life. There's only one drop, and you have one opportunity, one 60, 70, 80-year at best opportunity to take hold of satisfaction and fulfillment. Many of us will spend that short time looking for life in a world that is notorious for not paying out. And so I just want to end by asking you a question. This semester, as you search for satisfaction and fulfillment, where are you going to look? You only have two options. You can look under the sun or beyond the sun. My hope is that you would look for satisfaction and fulfillment beyond the sun. My hope is that you would look to Jesus. Let's pray together.